Turkish soldiers being evacuated from Syria after being attacked by Syrian government forces. Images like these have created shock and anger in Turkey and growing calls for revenge. Turkish military hit Syrian army positions in retaliation for the death of dozens of its soldiers in southern Idlib. Turkey blames the Syrian government for the airstrike that targeted a military outpost. Officials here also accuse Russia of failing to deter Syrian government forces who have recently stepped up their attacks against Turkish soldiers.
Birliklerimizin bulunduğu yerler.
This attack happened despite the location of our troops being coordinated in advance with Russian officials on the ground. Unfortunately, the attack continued after we have warned following the first strike.
Feeling abandoned by its EU allies, Turkey warned it won't prevent refugees from crossing into Europe. European countries are alarmed this might turn into a mass exodus of refugees fleeing the conflict in Syria. Turkey has been calling on the EU to share the burden of the refugee crisis and on NATO to deploy Patriot missiles on the border with Syria. But NATO doesn't seem to be willing to provide military support, offering for the time being words of sympathy.
I call on them to stop their offensive, to respect international law and to back UN efforts for a peaceful solution. This dangerous situation must be de-escalated, and we urge an immediate return to the 2018 ceasefire.
As tension mounts, Turkish and Russian officials held talks in Ankara to defuse tension. Turkey wants the Syrian army to pull out behind the demilitarized zone, stop its offensive, and allow civilians to return home. Russia is a key ally of President Bashar al-Assad, who rejects Turkey's expanded presence in Syria and insists the offensive by his troops in Idlib is legitimate and will continue. And if Russia and Turkey fail to overcome their differences, they might end up bogged down in a wider and prolonged regional confrontation in Syria. Ahelbarra, Al Jazeera, Cilvegozu on Turkey's border with Syria.